You're tuning in to the Raised by Rentals program. This podcast will contain strong language and spoilers for decades-old media properties.
Join us.
Welcome, everybody. This is the podcast where we examine pop culture franchises of the VHS era and improv news stories to imagine how Arnold Schwarzenegger meets Arnold Schwarzenegger, falls in love with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then teams up with Arnold Schwarzenegger to defeat Arnold Schwarzenegger and save the day for all the little Arnold Schwarzeneggers, because objectively, there isn't any better way to improve all of our favorite movies, TV, and games. I'm Josh.
Sorry, I'm Mike.
And we were Raised by Rentals. Mike! It's Halloween. Oh, sorry. Shit. Hang on. That was the last episode. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. I got it. It's Thanksgiving. Oh shit. Wait. No. Hang on. That's later this month. We were gonna maybe do another episode for that, like a holiday special. So hang on. I got it. It's that awkward period between Halloween and Thanksgiving when we should be celebrating Veterans Day, but all the stores are already decked out for Christmas.
That is so fucking accurate. It's sad.
I know, right?
Oh god.
Oh, we spend all season like trying to hit certain milestones to have episodes come out like in the summertime or for Halloween or these different events, and then it's like, okay, Halloween's over, like let's go straight into the Christmas special. We already have like one or two of them planned, but fuck, there's a whole month in the way. Shit, what do we do?
What do we do? Exactly.
What do we do? Oh, man. Oh, I know. What we do is we return to one of our old series that we started way back in season 1, in keeping with the trend we've had all season, where we've gone back, to some of these old series. We went back and did a new installment for Slasher Camp. We went back and did a sequel to Flapjack Massacre. We brought back the Vengabus of Death and Hot Garbage. Yeah.
Yep.
And we did a bunch of like follow-ups to series, or like spiritual follow-ups or thematic follow-ups, like when we did an improv ruin on Mortal Kombat as a follow-up to our We Have RoboCop at Home episode. So yeah, season 4 has just been all about returning to the well, going back and adding on to existing series and concepts that we've already introduced. And there is one that has been the elephant in the room for the entire season. I hope our fans haven't forgotten about it, because we haven't touched on it, not really, since season 2, and here we are, nearing the end of season 4. And honestly, just like with Slasher Camp, when we went back and did Slasher Camp 3, I was shocked that it had been so long since we did a Slasher Camp.
Agreed.
Because it felt like we had just done one, like last season. Like, no, it was not only 2 years ago, but 50 episodes ago.
Which is crazy, because like we talk about those episodes all the time, just like in our own conversations. Like we make references back to Slasher Camp 1 and 2. So that's why it didn't feel like it had been so long, but it's like, holy shit, it was a long time.
It was. And speaking of a long time, we did Slasher Camp 3 this season. The previous episode that we're referencing was episode 50, way back in season 2, when we did obviously the second part of the Slasher Camp series, Ernest Goes to Slasher Camp, and we were like, oh my god, it's been like 50 episodes. Well, actually, the episode right after that, episode 51, we did the third installment in our Arnieverse series about Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that was the last time that we did an official Arnieverse episode. Not only has it been 2 years, like it's been longer than the gap between the Slasher Camps, because it's actually been 56 episodes.
Damn.
Right?
And I mean, to be fair, we both mentioned this on the show multiple times and in our own chatting several times, where that was the episode that we felt like we got closest to crashing and burning.
Mm-hmm.
Which, upon re-listening before we tackled this, I kind of have to scold my former self, because it's like, yes, in the moment, did we flounder? Were we nervous? Were we fucking up? Absolutely. Did we pull out the nosedive at the end? I think so. I think where we ended up at the end of it was in a funny place. And I'm kind of mad at myself for not realizing the good parts of it and only focusing on how freaking panicked I was when I felt like we were nosediving.
Yeah, yeah, you're totally right. I felt the same way, and I want to kind of back up and give a little bit of context, before I continue with that opinion. But I think you're absolutely right, and it leads into what we're doing today. But just for some context, because it has been, so long. It's been 84 years, you know? Because it's been so
Right.
long, like let me give everybody a quick recap. And obviously, based on the intro, we're going to be talking a lot about Arnold Schwarzenegger, which used to be a pretty regular part of the show, but we haven't really done it in a long time. So like, let's refresh everybody's memories about why we were so obsessed and why it became such a big part of Razor Rentals. And it goes all the way back to our 11th episode, Twinsies, way back in season one in 2022. Shit, when
Damn.
we decided we just wanted to mash up the action figures and have a crossover episode between Commando and Terminator, uh,
Hmm.
mostly just to have fun. But then, of course, we had to solve the question of, well, why do these two characters, John Matrix from Commando and the T-800 from Terminator, like, why did they have the same face? And we came up with this like really cool, fun story to how to mash the characters up and like work John Matrix into like the mythology of the Terminator and Skynet and all of this. And then, just for the hell of it, we both independently came up with the idea of like, oh, well, we got to have like Dutch show up from Predator at the end, like just for a little cameo, right?
Yep.
um, and, and that was really all it was supposed to be. It was just like a fun episode where we took two, Schwarzenegger characters and mashed them up, threw a third character in at the end, like just for funsies. But then we didn't sit on it for very long. It only took us until later in that same season, episode 27, when we followed it up with Last Action Barbarian, where, we talked about in the episode how between recording Twinsies and this, the whole concept of there being like all these Arnold Schwarzenegger movies that cross over, this Arnieverse, like we created this whole mythology around it, like partly in the episodes, but partly kind of off, off air, and talking about it in other episodes in between, like, oh, like we could do this and this, and so we just jumped right into two of what we thought were going to be the more difficult characters, Schwarzenegger characters, to
Yes.
try to cross over, which is Jack Slater, who in the world of the movies is a fictional character. Like obviously, when you watch a movie like Commando or Terminator, like those are real people, but Jack Slater was a fictional character in the fictional world of the movie. So it was like, okay,
Yeah.
there's that layer, and then of course Conan the Destroyer or the Barbarian is a sword and sorcery like medieval fantasy character who doesn't even exist in the same timeline. So how do we mash that up? And we had a hell of a lot of fun figuring it out. And we
Hmm.
introduced a really like important concept, which is the Houdini ticket. For those of you who don't remember or who haven't seen Last Action Hero, the character Danny, the 11 or 12-year-old kid who teams up with Schwarzenegger's character Jack Slater, he has this movie ticket that supposedly belonged to Harry Houdini at one point, and it's a magical item that allows Danny to go between the real world and like the fictional world of the movie. So the Jack Slater character, who is a fictional character, my brain is like twisting in knots already.
I know, right? I'm trying to follow. I'm like, yep, I'm
Yeah, yeah,
following, but it's
yeah.
100% out there.
So Jack Slater, the fictional character, comes into the real world of the movie to the point where he even meets Arnold Schwarzenegger, the character who plays Jack Slater in the fictional movie within the movie of Last Action Hero. And
Yep.
because I had all those like meta layers, meta fictional layers, that's a pun. We we decided to use the villain of Last Action Hero, Mr. Benedict, played by Charles Dance, as our villain in that movie because he was a really smart villain who was on to Danny and the magic of the ticket. He like understood how it worked, and so we extrapolated that and basically did Last Action Hero 2, and we
Mhm.
just, we used the magical ticket to bring in characters that would be fictional other than Jack Slater, including Conan, of course. And, we brought in like, Dracula and I forget who else we even did, like Hannibal Lecter, I think. And, we brought in just a bunch of like kind of like random characters to be like bad guys and stuff. And it was a hell of a lot of
Mhm.
fun. And then we, kind of set it aside. We knew we were going to come back to it. We came back in the second season, episode 51, and this is the episode that you and I are referring to, now. We mentioned earlier that, we thought was maybe the crash and burn episode, or, maybe like it was a low point for us, which was the League of Extraordinary Arnies. And that episode, the setup was we were trying to go the opposite of the difficult Schwarzenegger characters like Jack Slater and Conan and go, okay, well, what are the easy ones? Who are the obvious ones? We already recruited John Matrix and Dutch Schaefer from Predator. Like, who else are the low hanging fruit? Well, yeah, John Kimball from Kindergarten Cop, Harry Tasker from True Lies, very obvious. And again, between these three episodes, we brought in this whole concept from twins of this government program that wanted to like breed the perfect human being, and they got that in Julius, the character played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then his brother Vincent, who was supposed to be all of the like negative genetic traits, all the runoff of all the perfect attributes that Julius had. That all ended up in Vincent, and Danny DeVito plays that character, and I'll make the joke again that it's funny in an interview. Danny DeVito was like, it was really weird when they pitched me the movie.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, you gotta kind of feel bad at one point, but at the same time, it's like, well, you got a good career, man. So good
Yeah,
on you.
yeah, yeah. Danny DeVito in the interview, he said he's like, look, I know what I look like, and
Yeah, exactly.
and it worked out for him. It was a really profitable movie, and it worked out for us because it gave us an origin story for, why are there so many characters with the same face? The characters who look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it was because of this government program to create the perfect human, and we had that extrapolated out to, well, eventually Skynet from the Terminator series, like, uses the DNA and the information from that genetic study to create the perfect Terminator, and that's how the face got on the T800 in the future and all this, and it was like, oh, perfect, like we can bring all this stuff, this stuff together. But to your point, we had this really fun setup in the League of Extraordinary Arnies. We talked about the twins program. We thought we had it nailed. We had a cool way for John Kimball and Harry Tasker to meet, but then we got stuck of like, yeah, now what? Like, what do they do? Like, who cares? Like, what's
Exactly.
like what's the conflict here? And because we usually like to try to imagine like a whole story, beginning, middle, and end. There've been some exceptions to that rule in the course of all the improv episodes we've done, but typically we like to try to do like a full story, and that one was just kind of floundering. And we spent about almost 30 minutes going back and forth going, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? Oh, I know. What about this? And kind of repeating ourselves over and over again until finally we were just like, well, we keep talking about how we need a villain character played by Danny DeVito, like the Penguin, and then, slapped ourselves on the forehead, like, well, just use the fucking Penguin, from Batman Returns,
Right, right.
And then the last 10 minutes of the episode was like gold, like boom. It just,
Mhm.
flowed really, really well into this ending, and it was like perfect. So, I think we remembered it as the episode where we were grasping at straws and, spinning our wheels and wasting time, but we got to a really good place at the end. But it left a bad taste in our mouth. We didn't go back to the Arnieverse after that for a while. We kind of badmouthed it when we did our year in review episode at the end of the season, talking about like, well, what's the episode that was the worst, and that one definitely came up as a candidate. And it was, I think you and I both had kind of think of that as like, it's not really one of the great ones. But I agree. Like,
Right.
I do actually think it's a lot better than we remembered. And yeah, there is that kind of like dull, 20 or 30 minutes where we were like, trying to like figure something out. But it was also like really interesting, kind of revealing the process.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes when we do these improvs, it's like, yeah, we just get stuck, and we resisted the crash and burn, and we pulled the nose on the plane up, like you said, but it was that was a close call.
Well, and this is the thing for anyone who's listening, and I do know a few of you out there that are listening, are writers, and I know that you guys understand when we say like that's kind of what it's like being in a writer's room, like when you're trying to write with other people, you're just kind of throwing ideas out there and trying to see like what lands, like what connects, what makes sense with this concept where you're not just grasping at straws, but like it ignites something in the person you're writing with and gives them ideas. So it is that collaborative thing where you have to keep throwing out idea after idea until like something lands. Like we always joke about the light bulbs are going off, and it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
because one of us will say something that the other one is like, oh shit, yes, and that means this happens.
Hmm.
So you're always looking for that. And in that episode, you got to witness that live on the episode
Hmm.
where we were like, fuck, what is going to work? Like, would this work? Is this going to work? Is that like, and we floundered back and forth until the penguin came around. And then it was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, this works. And then we were able to run with it. And I think throughout our entire podcast, like the entire run of Raised by Rentals, I feel like there's been a handful of times where listeners have got to witness that. Um, Maybe not the floundering so hard. Like we've done it a couple of times, but not as hard as that episode. But have definitely experienced us shifting gears drastically mid-story. There's been
Yeah.
a ton of times where we're like, one of us is kind of pushing in a direction that is working, but something will get said where the other one will go, oh, but what if? And
Yep.
then we're like, oh, fuck, yeah, that's way better. Let's go with that.
Yep.
And sometimes, like in our most recent, Great Pumpkin, it gets batted back and forth two or three times where it's like, oh, that's good, but what about this? And then the other one's like, oh, that's good, but what about this? And it's like, there it is. That they all came together. We needed all three parts,
Yep.
so
Hmm.
it's like that. So yes, while we will dog on those episodes when they happen, it is part of the creative process and it is part of the writing process. And I think a lot of you out there that are listening to this like to kind of see how the sausage is made a little bit. At least a few of you have told me such. So I know that there are listeners who enjoy that, but we don't want to do it for the whole episode.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, maybe I could just edit that out a little bit better next time, just to kind of shorten it. But yeah, there's definitely been other episodes, where we've kind of, you've been able to see behind the scenes. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about it here because we can get into it when we do another one of our, year in review episodes at the end of the season. But yeah, like it's funny how you mentioned sometimes, we go into it thinking, oh, that we have this one idea, and then we get to talking and it's like, well, fuck that idea. Like this one's way better, and yeah,
Right.
you just sort of abandon like where you started from. And as recently as the very last episode with the Great Pumpkin, we talked a lot about that, the creation of that episode in the episode where we started off with this other idea, and the more we talked about it, the more we were like, yeah, fuck that idea. Like we got to go this route instead, and it's going to be so much better. And I think it worked out because that episode was awesome.
Oh God, yeah, that's definitely going to be up there for one of my favorites of this season. I had so much fun with that one.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But just yeah, just in the interest of moving right along. So yeah, we've only done those three Arnieverse episodes. It feels like a lot more because we used to make a really big deal about how this was like a major part of our podcast, and we always mixed Arnold Schwarzenegger into everything,
Right.
in the same way that like Jason Voorhees tends to show up in everything, Um, and there were actually four or maybe five, depending on how you look at it, other episodes that are, I guess you can call them tie-ins to the Arnieverse because we brought Dutch Schaefer in from Predator. So that means right off the bat, To Catch a Predator, our seventh episode, way back from season one, also now ties in, even though there wasn't really any mention of the Arnieverse in that episode because, we hadn't birthed it yet.
Hmm.
And then later on in season two, we did two episodes on Alien versus Predator and the crossover. So again, we brought the Predator back. We did our AVP ABC Super Gusters episode, and then our Alien Predator Revengeance Rising crossover, where between those two episodes, we walked through the entire franchise of the Predator and Alien like shared universe, and then did a whole what if on well what would we do, how would we sort of fix the movies, improve them, add things to the mix. One thing that I liked a lot is we actually we proposed like a TV show idea where like there
Hmm.
needs to be something to bridge this movie to that movie. So hey, let's do this like 6 or 8 episode like miniseries, like TV show, and like I like just kind of like mixing things up in that way. Um, the one that is the most clearly related that you could almost say is the fourth Arnieverse movie is Johnny Five is Still Alive.
Hmm.
Another episode we did in season two. See, there was lots of Schwarzenegger in season two. uh,
It really was.
yeah, and that's because the whole concept behind that episode was we had Johnny Five from Short Circuit who was still alive in the Skynet future. Basically just trying to take the concept of the Pixar movie Wall-E and like make it dark.
Right.
um,
I think that worked, honestly. I do like that episode.
Yeah, that was a really fun one. Yeah, we basically the Terminator was a major character, and even though we went into that thinking it was going to be the Skynet future, I don't think that I expected the Terminator to just be like in the main cast, but he was, and it was great.
Right.
um, and then lastly, before we move on, in season three, we did another episode in November. We did a Planes, Trains, and Batmobiles, where we crossed over the characters from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and Batman, specifically the Batman from the 1989 Batman and Batman Returns. And so again, because of the Penguin connection, boom, that one also technically is in continuity with the Arnieverse as well.
Right.
Oh man, so we did, like I said, it feels like we did a lot with Arnie in the first two seasons, and then we put it on the shelf after the League of Extraordinary Arnies, after what we thought of as like a near fatal crash. We're like we got to back off, like cool off on the Arnie for a while. But this whole time we've been thinking about it.
Yep. You have received several very high middle of the night rants, and because this is something that I will do to Josh when I'm off, because I'm up all night even when I'm not working, just to stay on my sleep schedule. But if I'm off and I don't got to go to work, I might indulge in a little herbal relaxation. Um, and I'll then grab my phone and start ranting to Josh in a voicemail about what we should do in some random future episode that may never happen. And I know at least two separate times I was like, all right, so if we come back to the Arnieverse, here's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And I've thrown random concepts at you that, some of it has kind of bled into what we're approaching for this episode, but some of it was just like, all right, whatever, that was
Yeah.
a high rant. um but
Yeah.
we've always been talking about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we definitely have had a lot of conversations, where we've looked at Arnold Schwarzenegger's filmography and we're like, what are we gonna do with Eraser? Like how are we gonna fit in,
Hmm.
whatever. Like it's like how do we make all this stuff like fit together? It's like do we like is there a whole episode that we could, build around like Hercules in New York or, Junior or Jingle All the Way? Like, you know, can we do we go back and do a mashup? And
Right.
it ultimately came down to, we just decided, look, we did the mashup thing twice already. It's like I don't want to just keep going back to that same well all the time and like, hey, let's just, mash up two more of the characters. We already kind of went beyond that. And so it's like, you know what, fuck it. Let's just, jump further down whatever this timeline is for, the Arnieverse. And we we have there is like a grand scheme to all of this, believe it or not. We don't necessarily know what it all is because we really just try to improv things as much as possible, but you can't help thinking about it, obviously. And there is like, there's an overarching story there, like I don't know, like an Avengers Endgame level, kind of like a giant crossover that we want to do, but it's like it's hazy on the horizon, Um,
Right.
so, and to get there, we thought it would be fun to do another installment, but again, just like with our Alien Predator Revenge is Rising, I mentioned the concept of doing a TV show, and that is what I personally think would be a really fun thing to do. Like, let's do like a spin-off TV show in the Arnieverse. And you had this crazy idea that had we done it as a movie and tried to do like a beginning, middle, and end, like three act structure, it would have required like so much research and like watching a bunch of movies, and we would have to like sit and figure it out ahead of time so we weren't like stepping all over each other, because there's so many possibilities that it was like like it was so daunting that we literally just kept rescheduling and rescheduling. Like like
Yep.
we were gonna do this earlier in the season, but we were like, I don't know, man, like that's a big one. and and
And and just a quick peek behind the curtain. Even this episode, we talked about recording it like soon after our last episode, and I had cold feet. I kept being like, I don't know, man. Can we let's look at it next week. Let's look at it next week. Like
yep.
I personally pushed this one back a couple times because I was nervous about it.
Yeah, because it was so big until, like I said, I was like, well, I had the idea about doing like a TV show. Like, well, shit, like we're missing the obvious thing again. It's right in front of us. Just take this big
Hmm.
giant idea that would be really hard to wrap up with a bow in a three-act movie and just do it as a pitch for a TV show. And then it kind of like takes the pressure off. Like just like going way, way, way back to our second episode when we did Police Academy and Chill, we set up the concept of what the show would be, like a show Bible, but we didn't walk through every episode like beat by beat.
Yes.
And I think quite honestly that would be boring, but it works here because it allows us to keep this one really big idea vague enough where we can just focus on like the fun concepts that we've thought of. So like while we are kind of going into this with an improv mindset, like again pulling the curtain back, this one might be the least improv that we've done in a really long time, because we're going to
Yeah.
try to pull together all of those like late night high text messages and all the coffee fueled rants and crazy conversations we have sometimes after we're done recording. We're like, oh dude, next time we should do this and this and this and this. And it's
Yep.
like, okay, let's try to pull all those together. Let's try to think of all the stuff that we were really excited about, all the stuff that got us jazzed. Let's pull it all together and we'll do this show. So of course the show has to have some kind of structure. And I know this is like a huge lead in. Like it's hard to do an episode like this without going back and like, okay, let's put all the pieces in place so people remember like where we were.
Right.
We have,
Well, to be fair, we did this exact same thing on our third round of Slasher Camp. We had to talk about everything that happened before, and like we said at the start, like I had a whole opening written down just to kind of get us to where we had to be for the improv to take place. So anytime you're doing a sequel, that's like a couple entries in, you're gonna have to do that setup. I mean, we even did that with the Venga bus and hot garbage. Like
yep.
we talked about what came first, so people were on the same page with us. So yes, it will be improv once we get our setup out of the way, but
Yeah.
we do have to do all that setup just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, exactly. And I want, everyone listening to kind of understand like where we're coming from without having to go back, into our back catalog like you and I had to do recently and go back and listen to like three 2-hour episodes,
Exactly.
and
Just to be like, wait, what did we say?
yeah, exactly. Even as recently as this season, when we did Escape from Earth and then later followed it up with Snakes in Space, but we had to go
Right.
back and like do a bunch of explanation to like, set the pieces on the board. Then of course it begs the question of, okay, if we're going to do a TV show, like what's the setup going to be? Is it just going to be something totally, original in terms of like, let's put all these ideas we have together? Do we pick one of the Arnieverse like mashup crossover ideas? We just pick one and then just do a bigger story with it. Obviously, we had so many that it's like, oh, well, how do we do all of them? Like what kind of a TV
Right.
show would allow us to do that? Like maybe like an anthology style show, like a Twilight Zone kind of a thing. And then of course, you had the brilliant light bulb of, dude, fucking Quantum Leap. Oh man, and that's when it all came together. That's when it all came together. It's like, yes.
Yep.
Oh man. So, for you youngins out there that maybe don't remember, Quantum Leap, it was a TV show in the early 90s. Well, technically it started in 1989, and it ran for 5 seasons on NBC. It stars Scott Bakula as Sam Beckett, Dean Stockwell as Al, who was like a hologram of his friend who helped him out and sort of communicated with the future, which I'll explain in a second when I like kind of throw out the plot. And then there was this AI program that would like speak in his head or his ear or something called Ziggy. And Ziggy was like, the supercomputer. Um, Funnily enough, I found out just today while I was looking this up that the voice of Ziggy, Deborah Pratt, was also the co-creator, executive producer, and the head writer for Quantum Leap. It was like her show.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so she was like, she really was the Ziggy. Like she had all the insider information, which is like, that's really cool.
That's kind of brilliant that they had her, like the showrunner, like that, be the supercomputer. I like that. That's a fun meta joke.
Yeah, right. Um, so yeah, to kind of explain, what I said about like the hologram and AI. So again, this is right from Wikipedia. I'm just going to read it right off of Wikipedia, right? That Dr. Sam Beckett is a physicist who, believing he has invented a way to travel through time, voluntarily subjects himself to an experiment that he believes will prove the validity of his controversial theories. Sam leaps into the fluid of space-time and apparently disappears forever. However, it is soon revealed that Beckett's consciousness is alive and able to transfer to and inhabit the bodies of other people existing on his timeline. The artificially intelligent computer he created, called Ziggy, operates with the assumption that in order to return home, Sam must change events in the past in order to correct the future course of events. Which is a long way of saying that he basically like jumps into like the bodies of other people in the past, and then he has to like pretend to be them and fix some wrong in their life, right some wrong in their life, and then as soon as that wrong is corrected and there's a happy ending, he jumps into the next person and it's the next episode.
And it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. It was an amazing TV show. It was super popular. They did a, revival a couple years ago. I didn't see it, but the original one is classic. And not only is it a classic show, but it was really influential to the point where, people talk about Quantum Leap as like a verb, or it's like a whole storytelling format into itself, right?
Yep.
I think people who had never seen this show probably understand that anytime you have a character who is jumping through time or dimensions, people always mention, oh, it's like Quantum Leap. Nobody mentions
Oh yeah.
sliders.
Exactly.
um,
I mean, I personally loved Sliders, but yeah, no, Quantum Leap is a better show.
well, yeah, I mean, sliders was great, but it didn't have like the influence that Quantum Leap had, and it was like a
Yeah.
prime time like network drama that like everybody watched, and it taught everybody the word quantum, even though I don't think most people still even realize what it means.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I'll let you guys look up what a quantum is. But yeah, anyway, so this gives us the perfect format for, well, every episode. We can just like do something different. We can do whatever we want. Like hell, it doesn't even have to be another episode. Like we could, the whole setup of this is we can just, have somebody, jumping through the Arnieverse, and it's like, oh my God, like the possibilities,
Right. Well, and that's the thing. Like, we could literally put him in any fucking fictional universe or any fucking fictional role and make it make sense using this premise. So that was kind of the excitement factor. Was like, imagine Arnie in whatever role we want to put him in.
Yeah, yeah, and you just said the key word there, which is fictional, right? Because
Yes.
obviously Arnold Schwarzenegger is an actor in our world who plays a bunch of fictional characters. All these people we've been mentioning, like Matrix and Dutch and all these, like they're fictional to us. But then there's Jack Slater who's fictional to them, and that was the whole setup to obviously our Last Action Barbarian episode. So, Mike, you key it up here. Like, what was the big crazy idea that got you all excited that got us here to finally record?
So okay, so the concept was in the last episode we had the Penguin, which is a fiction. It's basically like Conan or Jack Slater in the sense that it is a fictional version of Danny DeVito, but we know that in our storyline we have, Danny DeVito from the Twins Project, and we even discussed how like, there is one out there that's an actor, just like there's an Arnold Schwarzenegger out there that's an actor. That and we talk about all their programming, how they were all programmed to do certain things. And like, yes, some of them break away from their programming, which we saw with Kimball, where he kind of like was like, I don't want to be a policeman anymore. I want to be a kindergarten teacher. And he kind of lets himself go. But it's hard for them to break away from their programming. But we get them all together and we find out like the fucking penguins attack him. How does that happen? So now they're going to have to go back to Benedict. We have a fictitious villain who is in jail at the end of the second Arnieverse episode, but we know that he has part of the ticket still. Part of the ticket is in his glass eye. So he's in prison with the ticket. So did something happen with Benedict? Did he send more fictitious villains out there? Did he specifically pick a Danny DeVito to let them know, I'm on to you, I know what you're doing, and I'm going to find a way to stop you? And why is he going to do that? Like, what is it about that? Maybe it's because, Benedict, being a fictitious character also, is programmed to just be the bad guy in a Jack Slater movie. But because of the magic of the ticket, when Danny fell into the world, he disrupted that programming and he's like, wait a second, I have a chance at being something bigger. However, if he's in the movie verse, he's always going to get stopped by Jack Slater. If he's in the real world, they know about him, so he's in jail. He's got to find a way to get rid of the Arnies so he can be the villain he wants to be. That's where we're going to start with. We got to go after Benedict.
Nice. Okay, so Benedict is. So is he still in jail? So when we kick off this story, you said, is he still in jail, or do we kick it off with maybe some kind like a jailbreak or something like that?
I think he should still be in jail because like we left him in jail in the episode in episode 2, and then in episode 3 we're at this like compound, whatever. I keep picturing like the GI Joe headquarters from the cartoon, like the sterile metal walls with like blinking lights for no reason.
Yeah.
So like the League of Arnies, their whole base where we have like Jules and what the hell was Danny's character in Twins? Why can't I think of his name?
The twins. Vincent.
Vincent, yeah. So we have Jules and Vincent as kind of like the grandfathers of the League of Arnies. We discussed like them being the old men that are aware of the program and all that. And all these other Arnies and Dannies are all involved in this program. Well, they get attacked by the fucking penguin. And, they win, they save the day. But it's like, how did that happen? Well, we better go investigate. Like, because we talk about Slater and Conan being there. So they're two fictional characters that are in the real world.
Yep.
So maybe like Slater's immediately like Benedict, he freaking knows that Benedict is doing something. So they go to the jail to find him, and maybe he's gone. He found a way out.
Nice.
So now we got to figure out where the fuck is he? If he's maybe they get attacked by more fictitious villains. So maybe we could start that off like where we got attacked by by a Danny DeVito style character. But then, we mentioned him using other bad guys, so who knows? Like maybe like he throws something weird like a freaking, xenomorph or something at him. So it's like, all right, we got to stop him because he's pulling freaking fictional monsters and throwing them into the real world. We have to go after him, but we don't have the ticket. How do we do that? Well, we mentioned in our last episode that the supporting cast from the other Arnie movies would be kind of part of the League of Arnies. So like, John Matrix's daughter, I forget her freaking name in that, but
Jenny.
From Commando. Jenny, thank you. So Jenny would be there, Sarah Connor, because now she's involved, so she would be there. And of course, Danny from Last Action Hero. Now, you're the one that pointed this out to me because I forgot about this, but they specifically say that the magic was in Danny all along. It wasn't always about the ticket. The ticket was a conduit. So yes, there was some remnants of magic, but Danny is the one that could cross the universes. So he has some kind of power that can allow him to tap in to the fictional universe. So we can use, so the League of Arnies is going to basically get him and be like, all right, we're going to need you to open a portal into the fictional world. But which Arnie do we send? Do you send Conan? Do you send Slater? Do you send, friggin' Matrix? Do you send Dutch? Who do you send? No, of course not. You send the only Arnie that makes sense in a fictional world. You send the actor who can be a chameleon in any role. We send the greatest actor the world has ever known. We get the Arnold Schwarzenegger of this world, train him with the League of Arnies, and send him into the fictional universe so he can fall into any role he needs to be in.
Yeah, it's perfect. Oh God, I love it. Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and of course, we should have the real Danny DeVito be his Al. He's going
Oh
to be
yeah.
the one talking to him from the real world, telling him about the movies.
Yes, yes, of course. Okay, okay, yeah, I love it. I love it. So, yeah, backing up just a second, I'm picturing the opening of our first episode, right? Exactly. We you know
Yes.
we I don't know exactly what the dialogue or whatever would be, but we got to open up on like the compound of Arnie's or whatever it is, wherever the base is, and they're and one of them, Dutch or maybe it's like it's Kirby from the Commando, again, as part of their support crew. But somebody's kind of explaining that, we've brought together all the variants of Julius and Vincent. We brought you all here. We've got Dutch. We've got John Matrix. We've got who else? Some other characters like John Kruger from Eraser. I don't know what's his name. I'm
Mhm.
looking at a list here. Jericho Kane from End of Days, and you kind of like go around the room and kind of introduce everybody. And he mentions that there's some like big threat. It's a threat to, everything that they hold dear, a threat to their way of life, a threat to the whole world, to the universe, or whatever. And they're just kind of setting up that like, oh, like we're gonna find out what's the true purpose of the League of Arnies. Like, why are they all together? Has to be more than just, huh, that's funny, you look like me. Like, it's like,
Right.
why? Because we explained how General Kirby was actually recruiting some of them to the point, or all the way back to the end of our Twinsies episode, when they wanted John Matrix to come and meet Dutch. Like, we have to talk. It's like, well, talk about what?
Yep.
And we never really hinted at it. But like I said, there is this like overarching story that we vaguely have sketched in. So it's like, okay, let's just put some more of that on the table. Let's drop some more foreshadowing. Oh, like there's and as the viewer, you'd be like, oh, cool, like they're going to reveal it right off the bat, first episode, first scene, like what's the purpose of the League of Arnies? And then boom, the base gets attacked, and it's got to be something that is just very obviously fictional, where immediately you would be like what the hell is happening? Something so fictional, like they get attacked by all of the universal monsters at once, but they're in black and white. It's
Right. Right.
like you get Dracula and the Wolfman and Frankenstein, or or right? And it's just like their base is getting attacked, and then again make it very obvious to everybody that these are fictional characters, because I'm in color and they're in black and white, and it's like the fucking Wolfman or whatever, and they kind of fight him off, and then that's when, after they say they win the battle, then they're like, what the hell? Like, who could do that? Like, where's Danny? And of course, Danny's like, wasn't me. The only other person that we know of that, had that ability was, Mr. Benedict, but, he's in prison. Like, how could he, possibly do that? He doesn't have, the ticket is destroyed and Danny was here the whole time. So, yeah, to your point, they go to the prison, they get there, and it's like, oh, he's gone. Where's Mr. Benedict? And they start kind of following the clues of, well, he must have somehow been able to jump back into the fictional world again. Like maybe there was some remnant of the ticket or the magic, or there's someone else out there who has the same power, and they could literally go back to the base and have like a whole crew of like scientists or techs. Like it's like in the what do you call it? Like in Apollo 13 when they had all like the NASA techs all in that big room,
Mhm.
with Ed Harris calling the shots, and it's like they're all literally just like watching movies and TV shows, like looking, and then like there, and they spot something strange happening, and or maybe it's as simple as like it's a Charles Dance movie, like it's Aliens 3 or something, and
Right.
the actor who plays Mr. Benedict, and they're like, like that's not how that's supposed to go, and they notice there's some weird anomaly, like I don't remember that one prisoner in on the prison planet or whatever, in Alien 3. Like I don't remember him like being in charge of the prison and everyone has to like give him all their commissary money. Like what the hell?
Oh, wait. No, no, no. You got. I love where you're going. So we do the opening with the Universal monsters. Like again, very obviously fictitious attack. They're black and white monsters. You have like friggin' Lon Chaney, Wolfman, and friggin' Bela Lugosi Dracula and Boris Karloff Frankenstein. Very, very clearly these characters, they defeat them, and maybe when they defeat them, they turn to TV static and disappear.
Oh,
So because
nice, nice.
there is no real world counterpart for them, so they just disappear. Because they're fictional creations. But then, yeah, to your point, you have the whole like group of people watching all of these movies, like looking for something, and you kind of nailed it with Alien 3. We see his character in Alien 3, like maybe he looks right at the screen, and like we see the dog alien from Alien 3. Like we see the guy looking at the screen, and he like opens a portal, and the alien disappears into it and then appears in the fucking compound.
Oh, nice,
So
nice.
then they have to fight a fucking xenomorph, and they're like, "Oh shit! Like he's in the movie verse."
Yes, exactly. That's perfect. And then have Charles Dance maybe just kind of smile at them like, ha ha, and then
Yep.
again, and maybe again in that same movie, because he just gave himself away, as every supervillain does, he has to have a chance to, rub it in and gloat, to the heroes.
Of
Um,
course.
but we have him walk through another portal out of Alien 3. And when he does that, and this is going to be, and I'm just now thinking of this, but it's cool. We can kind of explain the logic where it's like he opens a portal, you see the character turn and go through the portal, but it's almost as if like his soul comes out, or like it's an astral projection, like in Doctor Strange. And then
Yes.
the original character who's supposed to be in the movie, just goes back to what he was doing. But it's like, wait, like a spirit like left him and went through that portal, and they see
Yep.
that, so they know that he's somewhere else in the movie verse, but like where, like what are we going to do about it? Oh,
Right. Right. Okay, yeah. So now they got to figure out, like, maybe we should have like a little montage scene where it's like they go to investigate the prison, and I don't know, we could see on like security cams or something. We could see like the guard sitting at his station, like watching a little dumb, like, one of those little TVs. You got like security monitors, and you got like one of those little, mini TVs,
hmm.
and maybe he's watching something like I don't know, like he's watching Game of Thrones or something, and we see Benedict take his glass eye out, and he's holding it through the bars, angling it in such a way where he gets a reflection of the TV screen on the glass eye, and
Oh,
then we just see
nice.
him like tap into the television, almost like Stay Tuned, where like you could just jump into the TV. So he like that's how he escaped his cell, is he used the movie verse with the ticket because it was still in his eye. So, and he just took the glass eye out and used it, and now he's running loose in there. So they see that, so we could wrap that up real fast in a couple minutes and be like, okay, we know he's there. We see how he got there. How do we get there, and what do we do? So like I said earlier, they talk to Danny, the whole magic is in you, blah, blah, blah. We have to go in after him. And then this is where we'd have to get the real Arnold Schwarzenegger and the real Danny DeVito. And then because it's an action movie, you got to have a montage. So we could have like a whole training segment of
Yes.
like Arnie, like running on a treadmill, all serious face, and like Danny huffing next to him. Like, what the hell? Like, why am I running? And then, like have like Arnie doing the thing, like running through the tires, like no, no, no. And Danny being like, what the fuck, just like tripping over himself. Like, is this really necessary, guys?
Yes, yeah. And like we talked about having like, the supporting cast. We need to have Tom Arnold from True Lies,
Oh
Gibson.
fuck
Like
yeah.
he's got to be the guy who's like, okay, now hear me out. And he has this crazy idea, it's like fucking Tom Arnold. Like
Yeah, he, he's the one that comes up with the plan. Of course,
yes,
it's
exactly,
perfect.
exactly, right. And of course Bill Paxton has to be there because Bill Paxton's in True Lies, Bill Paxton's in
Yep.
Terminator, Bill Paxton, he's in Predator 2, so he's in the universe, right? So Bill Paxton's got to be
Hmm.
there. But I want Bill Paxton. We had revealed earlier in he's in Commando, and we had talked about in our Twinsies episode about how he was this like punk who got his ass kicked by the Terminator, and then like a couple years later he's in the Coast Guard. He's like, I had to get my shit together, and and it would be, and now it would be funny if Bill Paxton was like the tech guy, or he had become this tech guy who's, Tom Arnold has these wacky ideas of like, well, like, what if we just like, we chased him into the movieverse, like we could get like, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like the real Arnold Schwarzenegger, like again, he has this like grand plan, and of course it's Bill Paxton who's like,
Yeah,
okay, here's how it's actually going to work, like he's the voice
right.
of reason,
Yes, yes.
Oh God, I love
So,
this.
so after we speed through the montage scene of like having them all trained and all that, and like we have obviously we would have to have the whole like the courting them scene. I know I'm speeding through it, but like we'd have to have like the Arnies go to meet the real Arnold, and
Hmm.
of course he'd be like, "Oh, you want a bunch of stunt doubles?" Like he'd be all confused, but he gets brought into the fold. Same thing with Danny. Then we go through the training thing, and then like okay, when they're ready to send in, what I'm picturing is like Danny from Last Action Hero almost standing on like if you've ever seen the Phantasm movies, there's like these two like metal rods. It almost looks like a tuning fork where if you like put your hands on it, it like opens this gateway to another dimension, where the tall man is
Hmm.
from.
Yep.
So I'm picturing like this weird device that Danny's standing in, like humming, and he has to like put his hands on this thing, and then like it opens a gateway, kind of like the Stargate
Yes.
into the movie verse.
Yes.
So like we see like everybody, all the Arnies and Dannies are all standing back, like, oh, all like it's opening this portal into the movie universe, and we see Arnold Schwarzenegger like all geared up, like walking toward it, and like he looks back, as, like kind of like does a salute to all the other Arnies and all the other Danny DeVitos. And like we could have like the real Danny DeVito in his chair with his comm headset on, like ready to talk, as and guide Arnie through the universe. But right as Arnold steps in, one of the Danny DeVitos, like let's say it's the Danny DeVito from like Matilda or something, pulls off a Danny DeVito mask, revealing Frank Reynolds' Danny DeVito. And he shoots Danny in the head. He's like, "So I started blasting," and he just fucking shoots him and takes out Danny. And now Arnold is trapped in the fucking movie verse.
Yes.
So of course, all the Arnies and Danny DeVitos would like beat the shit out of Frank Reynolds, and then they're like, "Holy shit!" It's like Danny's gonna die. We get Danny. We find out he's in a coma. We'll pull like the stereotypical '80s wounded thing. He's in a coma, but he can't pull Arnold back out. So because they don't have the magic, they can't use it. Danny's the only one that had the magic. Arnold Schwarzenegger is in. We can still communicate with him using the technology we sent with him. So he's got like the little,
Hmm.
maybe it's a chip implant or whatever. We don't have it could be total movie sci-fi bullshit.
Oh yeah.
Um, so now Arnold Schwarzenegger is in the movie universe. Danny is in a coma. Arnold is trapped, but he still has a mission. He's still got to stop Benedict. So I think this first thing that we should do is, because things went wrong right at the start, maybe we could even have, hold on, let me back up. So we do the thing with Frank Reynolds where he shoots Danny. Maybe he also shoots one of the computers.
Okay.
So like
Yeah.
the guide, quote unquote, to send him after Benedict, whatever was guiding him, like his GPS got destroyed. So now Arnie is jumping around the movie verse with no rhyme or reason, trying to track down Benedict.
Yes, I love that. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I love that. And just for clarity, because I even got myself confused for a second, because we have Danny, who is Danny
And
Madigan, the
Danny DeVito.
kid. Yeah, Danny the kid from Last Action Hero, who has the magic ticket powers, and then yeah, there's Danny DeVito, the actor, and
Right.
Frank Reynolds from his character from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. But yeah, it's like okay, you were all on a tear, and I'm like, I don't want to interrupt, but like I gotta throw a couple details
Yeah.
in. No,
But I love the idea of Danny DeVito pulling off a
yeah,
Danny DeVito mask
it's
to
so
reveal Danny DeVito.
I know it's so perfect. Yeah, no, I love this, right? And yeah, we can have so we show we just have Danny DeVito like I said I started blasting and then everyone kind of panics, but then from there we got to cut to Schwarzenegger like he's like it's like in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, he's like flying through limbo or something, right? And then
Right.
he snaps to and he looks around, and I think the first one that we pick should be one that's like kind of, let's not get too crazy. Let's
Um,
go something kind of
it should
similar.
be immediately recognizable.
Yeah, immediately recognizable, but also like a character that's like, kind of similar. So like let's just say he looks around and he like realizes he's holding a gun and goddamn my feet hurt and he looks down and he's bare feet, his feet are all bloody, and he like looks in a in a window or a mirror and it's fucking John McClane. And then he's kind of whispering, Danny, Gibbs, someone who's there, like, why do I look like Bruce Willis? You know?
Right. And that's the thing, he would know because he's the actor, so of
Yeah.
course he would know.
Yeah. And it's like he was expecting to jump into like maybe like a Schwarzenegger character, but he just jumps into he's like, why am I in Die Hard? Like, I'm Bruce Willis in Die Hard, and and then it's like you hear this panic on the other side. He's like, hello, hello, and he doesn't get an answer right away. But then he like looks up and I don't know what scene in Die Hard this is because I'm just making this up, but like it's like he sees one of the terrorists coming to prepare the rocket launcher or whatever, and one of the terrorists who looks like the actor who played him in Die Hard, but just for a second you see the terrorist like turn his head to the side and his eye glints like Benedict's glass eye, and it's like ooh, or maybe just for a second there's like a superimposition of like Charles Dance's face, and just so that we can get Arnold
Ah.
Schwarzenegger, the actor, who's like, oh, it's like okay, that's him. Like it's like the Mr. Benedict, he wasn't just possessing Charles Dance characters. It's like, oh, he can possess any character. Oh shit. Okay, so or hell, it could even be Hans Gruber. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what scene in Die Hard this is. Again, it's just off the top of my head. But we're gonna kind of communicate to the audience and have Arnold Schwarzenegger himself, the actor, figure out that oh, that's Benedict, and and then like maybe you see John McClane like start to come out of hiding or whatever, and then suddenly like in his ear he hears like the static and he's like, oh shit, what's that? And then you get Danny DeVito, the actor, who's in his ear going like he's like hold up, like like we can see you, like don't do anything crazy. And again, I can't do the dialogue, but he's going to take this opportunity to explain to him, like, the whole purpose is to, like, we got to stop Benedict, but we can't, like, damage the movie verse, like the fictional world. Like, you can't mess up Die Hard, for like a generation
Yeah.
of people. Like, you can't do anything that John McClane wouldn't do. Like, you got to try to stop him, but you can't, you can't change anything in the movie. It's like, you can't change history.
Yes. So we have us like we should do like a speed up montage of like John McClane defeating the bad guys in Die Hard, but every time we show a close up, kind of like in Quantum Leap, where you get like what the character looks like in mirrors and what it looks
Hmm.
like to other
Hmm.
people, but every time we show the close up, it's actually Arnie
Yeah.
running through the page like yippee ki yay motherfucker, just like he's
Yes.
doing all the.
Yes.
We see
Yes.
like Arnie jump off the roof with the hose, like yeah, yeah, yeah. He just jumps off, and then like when he's cracking through the window, when he breaks through the window with before the the hose thing falls off in the explosion, as he breaks through, he's thrown into a new movie.
Yes. Yeah.
So he
Perfect.
goes through the portal, like he zaps through, and now, and now because we've established he's in the movie verse, we should have him like again like POV shot. He's in like a very well-to-do home. There's Christmas decorations everywhere, and like we see like maybe he's sitting on a bed and he like stands
Hmm.
up, but he's not too high up off the ground. He looks, he's like, what the hell, And we see the mirror, and he looks like Kevin McAllister, and he slaps it. He's like,
Yeah.
does the
Yes.
scream,
The classic scream face. Yeah.
and now it's Arnie as Kevin McAllister in Home Alone.
Yes, yes, exactly right. And then we got to introduce, like, Harry and Marv, and secretly, which is Harry is secretly Mr. Benedict, and it's like again,
Right.
you got to kind of like see them like he's got to act out the movie. He can't like mess it up. But this is the perfect opportunity now that Schwarzenegger is in the body of like little kid Macaulay Culkin. That he's gonna take a second to whisper, like Danny, come in, like this can't be right, like you got to get me out of here so we can like fix this, and then of course that's when Danny's gonna be like, well, I hate to break it to you, but we got kind of a problem, and that's when he explains to him what happened with Danny Madigan, and he's like, oh, he's like in a coma, and like his powers aren't working, and it seems like he's dreaming about something, but like we're trying to wake him up, and in the meantime, like just try to stop Benedict, and like we'll figure it out, and like that's it, like that's the whole
Right.
setup, right?
And it should be the thing of like Benedict shouldn't really give a shit if he fucks up the movies because clearly he's sending fictional monsters into reality. So he's fucking
Hmm.
things up, but they're trying to keep things normal so there's no butterfly ripple effect like out into the real world. So I love your idea of him as Harry, as like it's Benedict as Harry, but he should like lean over to Marv and just be like, I'm gonna kill that fucking kid and like
Yeah.
pull out a gun
Yes.
and
Yes.
have it be like, Jesus, you know. So he's like ready to, because he knows like if he kills Arnie, there's no one to stop him. So
Yeah.
he's like, fuck it, we're gonna kill the kid. But Arnie has to play by the rules of the movie. So he's like running around doing the montage, set up the house for with the paint cans and the nails
Hmm.
and the heating up the doorknob. So we do the whole thing like again, speed through montage. He beats the bad guys. He gets on the zip line, and as he's like sliding toward the treehouse, the portal opens halfway on the zip line and he disappears. And then like maybe Benedict, as Harry sees that and he's like, oh no you don't, and he jumps as well, like so
Hmm.
he's trying to kill him.
Okay. Okay. Hang on. Let me back up for a second. I love that idea, but I feel like Benedict should have a chance to realize that that's a Schwarzenegger, like in that other character. So whether we do it in the Home Alone, setup right before that happens, or what, I don't know. But like there should be a point where again you see Harry
Oh,
do
I got it.
do something out of character, and then have like little Kevin McAllister, just be like, "I'll be back, Benedict," or whatever.
Dude, I got a fucking hilarious way to reveal it.
Do it.
So because Benedict still has the glass eye with the ticket stub,
Hmm.
he can see Arnie. But now picture just how this would look for the viewers. He's going to be looking in the house, and we're going to see Macaulay Culkin, kid Macaulay Culkin, with a CGI fully grown ass Arnie head on that body. Like, "Ah, yeah, I'm setting up for Christmas." Like, he's just. So it's this like bobble-headed Arnie on Kevin McAllister. So he can see him because he's got a magic eye.
That's perfect. The magic eye. Yes, exactly. Okay, so from here, like this is the whole show. Like every episode, we're gonna do one or two or hell, even three. Like jumps into like well, I guess it would depend on like whatever Hollywood company is making this show, like whatever movie rights they own, I guess. But hell, for our purposes, like fuck it, like we're just gonna use whatever we want. Uh, um,
Right.
yeah, and it's this back and forth of sometimes Benedict like knows it's Arnie and is trying to kill him because of course he wants to stop the guy who can stop him, but then sometimes it's Arnie who knows it's Benedict who's like, I gotta get you out of get I have to stop you and get you out of the movie. So it's like this kind of like cat and mouse game back and forth where they're always at odds with each other, and because they keep interacting, they keep coming into conflict, Benedict is becoming more and more determined, like, oh, I'm gonna kill that motherfucker. And what
Right.
what that does is it takes away the motivation for Benedict to just say, well, fuck this, and like leave and go back to the real world or go back to his own movie. It's like he stays in the cat and mouse game for the convenience of our TV show, but we're kind of explaining it away. It's like, well, now he has like this personal vendetta against the real Arnold Schwarzenegger who keeps like fucking up his plans to find some other movie to be like a villain in, right?
Yes. Yes.
So after Home Alone, he drops down, and it's like, I didn't want to like blow the load too soon, but I kind of feel like it would be hilarious if we end the first or second episode like there should be the cliffhanger where he looks in the mirror and it's like fucking Stallone.
Yes. Dude, it should be specifically Stallone and Cobra
Exactly.
because we've touched on Cobra so many
Yes,
times.
exactly. Like, oh god, like crime is the disease and I'm the cure. Yeah, this is awesome. So like this will be the setup for like I mentioned before, like every episode can be like one or two or three of these setups, and this would basically just be the format for hell, like it could be a couple of seasons even, not just necessarily one season, just like Quantum Leap ran for 5 seasons, and it was multiple episodes
Mhm.
every single time. It was Sam Beckett in a new situation where he had to like help someone fix their life. So for us, it's just going to be this absolute playground of like, we can put Arnold Schwarzenegger into Free Willy or The Lost Boys or
He's playing the whale in
yeah.
Free Willy.
Yeah, I mean, we could go anywhere. We could, have him. He can be, I don't know, the fucking dog in the Sandlot. I mean, I don't know. Like, we could do all kinds of crazy shit. Like.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, he doesn't have to be specifically just male characters. Just like in Quantum Leap, sometimes he was a woman, so we could have him play female characters. We could have him play animal characters. We could have him play non-human characters. So, like, he's in Star Wars. He's R2D2. Like, we could do whatever the fuck we want
Yeah,
because, again, he's jumping fictional bodies,
yeah. Dude,
so he
dude, dude,
can
dude,
pop up anywhere.
I'm sorry. You mentioned a woman, and for some reason, the first thing I thought of was we gotta have him be Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. Like,
Oh my god!
what is it?
Oh my god! I'm picturing the scene where Richard Gere is holding open the jewelry box, and she goes to touch it, and he closes it, and she giggles, but it's Arnie being like, yeah, 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 yeah. Like, it's cracking me
Yes,
up.
yes, exactly.
Oh my god!
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely. Oh, and then and then of course there has to be at least one where it's got to be,
Oh fuck!
you know, the Universal Monsters one made me think about it too. We got to do like some kind of like classic, horror movie where, like fucking Michael Myers or our classic boy Jason or somebody. Like we got to put him in one of those like, but instead of being like the killer, he's like the topless girl being chased by Jason through the woods,
Look at my boobies, Jason. They're bouncing. Oh my
God.
god, I want to see him as like the original King Kong, and those close-ups where they just show like the close-up of the stop motion monkey, and he's just like, just a big grin on his face as he's holding Fay Ray. And it's like, and we just do the close-up, but it's Arnie's face looking like King Kong going, yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Oh my god.
And, oh my
Oh.
god! And then this will have to be on HBO or some channel where we can do all of this sort of like R-rated and PG-13 rated content, because like I'm also just thinking, and I can't do the voice, so you got to do it for me, but I'm just picturing in my head like fuck, 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 motherfuck, motherfuck, noise, noise, noise.
Yes. Oh, dude, we should. Okay, we actually have to have this in an episode. So, like, we have Arnie jump, and suddenly he's like standing next to Silent Bob, and he's like, "What the hell?" Like, just kind of looking at. He's like, and then you hear the music, and maybe Danny DeVito is in his ear, being like, "All right, sing along." And he's like, "Fuck, fuck, fuck, motherfuck, motherfuck, fuck, motherfuck, noise, noise, noise. 1, 2, 3, 4, noise, noise." Smoking
Oh
weed, smoking. He just does the whole thing.
oh my god! Oh my god!
And then what if freaking Benedict is the dude that comes to buy the weed? He's like, "Can I get a dime bag?" He's like, $15, little man. Put that shit in my head. And he just pulls the gun, and he's like, "Uh-oh." And then Silent Bob clocks him on the back of the head with a sock full of quarters.
Yes, yes.
And Benedict just disappears.
Right? Oh my god!
Holy shit!
Oh god, my fucking face hurts already from like laughing.
Dude, that.
Jesus Christ!
Oh, between Pretty Woman and Jay and Silent Bob, I'm in tears. Holy crap!
Okay, okay. What else?
Oh.
So we have to do some kind of obscure ones too, like
I got one.
Okay.
I got one.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
This is a callback to Count Creepyhead. So we have Arnold jump, and he opens his eyes, and maybe his view is sideways, and then we hear Danny DeVito in his ear be like, "Okay, so in this role, you're the Siamese twin of Dwayne Bradley." And then it pans out, and we see Arnold as Belial from Basket Case, and he just starts wiggling around, going, "Yow, yow, 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 yow."
I'm not a tumor. Like you guys said that one. I forget who said it in the
Oh my
Count
god.
Creepy episode, and I was laughing the way that I'm laughing now. My fucking face hurt when I was listening to the Count Creepy Head Halloween special episode. And somebody
Oh
was
my
like,
god.
"I'm not a tumor," and I just pictured that shit in my head, and I was fucking doing the dishes, and I was bent over in
Oh.
half, laughing, like shaking, like trying to like compose myself.
Oh, that is fucking amazing. Oh, but yeah, so I just want to see Belial with Arnie's face.
Oh yeah, it's so good,
Holy
dude.
shit.
Oh, dude, we could do like.
I'm not the tumor.
Shit, sorry. I was I was gonna say too, like, fuck, we could do like animated shit. Like he could be the Iron Giant, you know?
Oh fuck yeah, dude! We could even do Muppets. Like he
Yes.
appears as like Kermit in like the Muppet Show. He's just like, "Is the Muppet Show tonight?" Ah! And he like waves his arms around.
God. Oh my God.
Holy crap!
There's just like there's so many possibilities. Like I could
Oh god, yeah.
like we gotta stop. Like I want to just keep going. Like fuck, he can be like Cher from Clueless, and he could be in like fucking Reservoir Dogs, and like whatever. Like we could fuck, he could be in The Big Lebowski. Like we could just go on and on with like great VHS era movies.
Oh my god. But yeah, like this would be the entire show. So like so yes, we know this fourth installment is not technically, a beginning, middle and end, but we're kind of giving you an overarch of like what the story would be. It would be Arnie jumping from movie to movie trying to stop Benedict, and Benedict like trying to get one up on Arnie the entire time, because if he can kill Arnie, who's going to stop him? He has the only
Hmm.
means of being in the movie verse, and his one of his henchmen took out the League of Arnies' only way to get into the movie verse. So the only one that can stop Benedict right now is Arnold, who's hot on his heels.
Yep.
So the whole like several I'm like you said, we could do several seasons of this. So it would be like, episode after episode of them fighting through different movies where we could like make little tweaks and make little jokes, but eventually he's gonna have to like defeat Benedict or be defeated. Like we're gonna have to come to an end,
Yeah.
and we need to
Absolutely.
figure out what that looks like.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I got all excited because I was thinking the exact same thing. And for me, it wasn't even so much like trying to figure out how to stop Benedict. It was just a matter of I want there to be an end to the show eventually because we could reference the controversial, infamous last scene of the last episode of Quantum Leap, where people don't even remember like what the episode was about. What people remember is that when the episode was over, they put like a text card on the screen that read, "Dr. Sam Beckett never returned home." And it's like, fuck, like what a downer ending. Like he's just like lost in
Right.
time forever. And I'm like, dude, I want to do something like that. So like we have to have an ending just so we can have this like crazy downer at the very end.
Right.
Okay, so that makes me think of let's get back to a Charles Dance character because if we can't mess up the fictional universe of all these different movies, so what if the key to like stopping or maybe even killing Benedict is to catch him while he is in a Charles Dance character? And we know he already did that with Alien 3, how he started
Oh,
this. So like what if he jumped into another one of these characters and that would be the perfect way because if the Benedict like spirit was in a Charles Dance character who then is killed or stopped or whatever, it would be like Schwarzenegger
yes.
could like take credit for it. He could get the real Benedict, like his spirit, and like try to get him out of the movie verse without messing up the story, like the movie that people are watching at home that has Charles Dance in it. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Okay.
Unfortunately, I haven't seen like a lot of Charles Dance's filmography. So the one that like really jumps to mind isn't a movie, it's a TV show, which is Game of
Mhm.
Thrones.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I know you haven't seen a lot of Game of Thrones, and
Mm-mm.
I am hesitant to like spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen Game of Thrones or who hasn't like watched all of it. So I'll try to keep it vague, but hey, this is everybody's spoiler warning. There's actually the pre-recorded one that I mentioned at the beginning of every single
Yes.
episode, but this isn't exactly decades old. Game of Thrones isn't. It's more than a decade old, but at this point, like not that old. So, um,
I follow the rule of after about 2 months, I feel it's okay to talk about something,
Hmm.
and especially with a warning. So like if you're again, we do this on the Boogeyman's Closet all the time, like when we do cover newer movies, on the rare occasion that we do, it's like, "Hey, this is your warning. If you don't want to hear it, tune out now, go watch what you need to watch. Come back to it later, hopefully." But if you're like me, because I've never seen Game of Thrones, but honestly, I don't plan to watch it anytime soon, so I don't really care about spoilers. So feel free to spoil it for me. And hopefully our listeners will feel the same way, because I want you to listen till the end. So
Yeah, exactly. So, if you need to jump forward a little bit after we mention this, I won't mention it again in the rest of the episode. So, if you can just skip ahead a little bit. And anyway, so also, like, it's really not that much of a spoiler because I think everybody knows that in Game of Thrones, everybody dies. Like, that's kind of like
yes,
one of the gimmicks of the show is nobody is safe. And the books are the
right.
exact same way. The books are maybe even more so. That's one of the things that made the book series A Song of Ice and Fire such a huge hit like almost immediately was because nobody is safe. Again, it's not a spoiler, I hope not now, but like the main character of the first book of a long fantasy series is killed at the end of the first book. Like they kill the main character in the first book. And then you're like, what the
Right.
hell? Like, where is this even gonna go? And then miraculously, it gets better after that. And you're like,
Yep.
fucking like everything is on the table. Like, no holds barred with that story. So the character played by Charles Dance is Tywin Lannister, who is the father of several characters from the show, but specifically, I think everybody knows Cersei Lannister, the who becomes the queen, the one that everyone yells shame, shame in that one scene. And then there's
Hmm.
Jamie Lannister, the one played by I think his name is Coster Waldau. I don't know how to pronounce the actor's name, but he's the Golden Knight, and the character that was a bad guy at the beginning and kind of becomes a good guy toward the end. And it's like it's this perfect story arc of like seeing how like anybody can be redeemed. And then probably the most famous character besides the Dragon Queen herself is Tyrion Lannister, played by Peter Dinklage, right? He's the little
Hmm.
person, son of Tywin Lannister, who is one of the most powerful like lords in all the world. And here's the spoiler: the character Tywin Lannister, first of all, he died in the book, the third book that came out in the year 2000, so it's a 25-year-old spoiler. But he is killed by his own son, Tyrion Lannister, played by Peter Dinklage, who shoots him with a crossbow while he's taking a shit. So it would be really funny to have Arnold Schwarzenegger be Peter Dinklage and shoot Charles Dance with a crossbow bolt while he's got his pants down.
Right. Dude, yes. Okay, so again, I haven't seen this, so you'll have to kind of fill in the blanks here, but we'll have like this will be like the final season, like maybe the final episode of the final season, where it's like it'll culminate with the jump to that scene in Game of Thrones, but I don't think that should be where he dies. Like I
Okay,
think that maybe he jumps again, but he's wounded. Like he's
okay.
because maybe like, I don't know how long it takes him to die from the crossbow shot. Like is he instantly dead, or is it like is there a lot of moaning and groaning and slow death,
No, no,
or is it
it's
just like
pretty,
shock?
it's pretty instant. Yeah. So
Okay.
you mentioning him being wounded would actually work because if Benedict were to try to jump immediately, like maybe he sees the crossbow come up and is like, oh shit, and he tries to get out of there, the crossbow bolt could hit the character, the Tywin Lannister character dies, but Benedict, his like soul or whatever, gets wounded, but he's able to get out of there. Yeah, I like that. I think that works pretty well.
Okay, yeah. So because the reason, because like there's a Charles Dance movie that I fucking love, that I haven't seen for years, but I used to obsessively watch as a kid, and that's The Golden Child with Eddie Murphy,
Oh, okay.
and Charles Dance plays the villain Sardo Numspa, and he's a fucking like demon monster. So like I love the idea of having him play a Lannister and get shot. But like yeah, to your point, like he goes to jump right as like as the crossbow bolt hits him, so he's wounded, and like he jumps into the Golden Child, and then we should have like Arnold jump after him, and we have Arnold looked down and he's in the body of Eddie Murphy. And then we see
Nice.
Charles Dance turn into the big demon bone dragon thing, and he has to stab him with the mystic knife.
Okay.
So he stabs him in half, like, Arnold be like, again, in the body of Eddie Murphy. Picture that. Jumping through there, stabs the demon,
Yes.
and then he'll explode. So we killed Benedict, and Arnold will see Eddie Murphy like grab the glass eye with the ticket in it,
Hmm.
and then he jumps. Like, so jump from the golden child. But where is he gonna jump to? And I think that this is where we should have like some crazy shit happening. So imagine Arnold jumping into the body of Bruce Campbell at the end of Evil Dead 2.
Yes, I knew you were
So
going
we
there.
see him like holding onto a plank of wood, like floating toward the open portal. Going, how do you stop it? And then it like breaks and he goes flying through the portal. But
Oh,
we're
wait,
like,
look, wait, wait,
we
wait,
should
wait, wait,
do
wait.
a couple
Pause,
more of
pause,
these.
pause, pause, pause. Yeah, yeah. When he says like, "How do you stop it?" We should have the actual Danny DeVito in his ear going like, "We can't stop it. Like you're still stuck there. Like Danny's still in the coma." And it's like that way the movie doesn't change, but it's like the Schwarzenegger like hears him in his voice, and it's like, "Oh no."
Right.
Sorry, go ahead. Go
Yes.
from there.
So like when he goes through the portal, like he should come out and like we should think it's going to be Army of Darkness. Like he hits like this dusty, dirty ground
Yep.
and like rolls for a minute, and then he gets up. But we notice he doesn't look like Bruce Campbell anymore. Now he's like bare chested and he stands up and he's on a beach. And we look up and we see the Statue of Liberty, but it's got Benedict's face on it.
Yes. It's fucking Planet
And
of the
it's,
Apes.
yes. And he's like, "You maniacs! You blew it up! Ah, damn you!" Just scream.
Yes, right there, right there, right there. Like, and we leave that question of like, wait, why does it have Benedict's face? Like, didn't he kill Benedict? Didn't he save the day? But we don't answer any of that. We cut to black, and then the text card comes on the screen that says Arnold Schwarzenegger never returned home. and that's
Yes,
and that's it.
yes.
That's the last episode.
That's the last one. But see, now the fun part the fun part of this setup is at any point we can come back to the Arnieverse. Like if let's say we're doing
Hmm.
Cobra 4,
Hmm.
we could have a character show up that sounds like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it will make sense to the listeners who have heard this episode.
Right? Yeah.
So if we ever want to bring Arnie in for anything else, we now have this meta joke that we can play with.
Yeah, like literally, you're right. Like not just the Arnieverse, but like literally any episode we ever do that involves a movie
Yep.
property, we can just have this weird little cameo where there's like some character who says the line they always say, but it's in an Austrian accent for a second.
Yes. Yes. Oh, dude. No, one thing we should do before we do the Evil Dead thing, when we see him jump, like he should jump into, I don't know, something like the Twilight Zone movie, and like he's suddenly standing in like a swamp in Vietnam. We should see Al Leong. And like Al Leong should look at him and be like, "You're not the only one trapped in this." And then he fucking disappears and goes, so we can come back and have like Al Leong as another movie traveler.
Yes, yeah, and it would be that scene at the end of the Twilight Zone, the guy who goes through like the different like times of war, and he gets carted off on like the concentration camp
Yeah.
train, and he sees Al Leong, and then he's just like no, and then he disappears, and he shows up like on the beach for the Planet of the Apes ending.
Yes, and that's the thing in that. Like in that episode, that's about a guy like jumping through history.
Yeah,
So this is
yeah.
like a guy jumping through movies, so it kind of fits.
It's no, I think it more than kind of fits. I think it's fucking perfect. Like that's genius. And yeah, we can bring Al Leong in, who if our listeners don't remember, you can just go back and listen to our Morgue File episode that we rounded off season 3 with, where we mentioned that one of the dead episode ideas we had was to have Al Leong be this like universal goon or thug because he's an actor who has played a lot of like random gangster characters or like random thugs,
Yep.
and he's even in Last Action Hero as a random thug.
And in Die Hard. We
Yeah,
mentioned Die Hard.
yeah,
He's in Die Hard as a random thug as well.
yeah. He's the terrorist who like eats the candy bar, And
Yeah.
I think most people will probably think of him or recognize him most as Genghis Khan from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. But like, yeah, he's
Hmm.
in a bunch of stuff. That would be hilarious to. We could just kind of like put that hook in, and then yeah, I'm like maybe that's a dead episode idea that can get resurrected, or if it's not an entire episode by itself, like we could just have it be that now every time we do an Arnieverse episode, there's just got to be Ali Young there for some reason.
Right. I'm like quickly searching because I'm like, he wasn't in The Golden Child, was he? I don't think he was. No, okay, he wasn't. Oh, he's in Big Trouble in Little China. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And he's
I was like,
in
I can picture him in like this Asian action movie, but I thought it was Golden Child.
yeah, he's in two of the Lethal Weapons, but he plays like different thugs.
I love it.
Yeah,
You gotta love Al Leong. He's in everything.
he's so good. But all right, man, this we did it, man. We did it. We did
We came back with
we
Arnieverse.
did. And like I was, it's like instead of Quantum Leap, it's like the Quantum League of Arnie's.
Exactly.
Woo, we're
Oh my
back.
god, dude, my sides fucking hurt. Holy
Oh God,
shit.
I know my face hurts. It's like I want to stop smiling and stop talking. I want to go like relax all the muscles in my face because I'm laughing too much.
Right?
Oh God.
Oh my god, when you said Pretty Woman, I damn near busted a gut because again, the immediate image was Arnie as Julia Roberts. Like again, that badly edited like CG Arnie face, like bobbling over, almost like those stupid internet cards where it's like the singing greeting card and
Oh
like you
yeah.
just put a picture of
Yes,
and it's like
yes.
they got like the bobblehead Canadian from South Park look
Yes,
going on.
yes, yeah.
That's kind of what I'm picturing, like just Arnie's face superimposed over Julia Roberts, like barely moving correctly, and then like when he closes the box, like that head, and I couldn't stop laughing. That fucked me up.
God, it's so good. Oh my God. Okay.
Holy shit!
Whew. So yeah, we'll see. Well, again, a peek behind the curtain. When we started doing this, we started talking about seriously doing this episode. The idea was like, well, we set up this craziness with the Arnieverse, but then we had cooled on the whole idea. So, well, let's just come back and do this, Arnieverse of Madness concept, and we can just like get everything on the table. Just throw it out there. Do whatever we want. And I don't really think we did what we initially set out to do, which is like let's just throw all the Schwarzenegger characters out there and like we'll have them all appear, this one and that one, and instead of doing a whole bunch of new episodes, like we'll just cram them all into this one anthology movie, and like we'll close the door on the Arnieverse and be done with it. Like it's the perfect addition to our season 4 theme of going back to old series, but this will be a way for us to just put a cap on it, on that open end that we left last time. But we ended up going in this like different direction with the anthology, but having it be all these like other movies, and like I don't know about you, but I'm like excited about the Arnieverse mythology. Like, you know what? I want to get to that big bad. Like, I don't want to stop it here. Like, let's do the next one and like show everyone where this is going. You know?
Agreed. Yeah, I'm kind of digging it, and I gotta be honest, like I didn't know that I would because I was nervous about coming back to this, but man, I had so much fun with this. This cracked me the fuck up. And it shows me that yeah, we can return to the well a fourth time.
Yeah,
Maybe not always, but it is possible.
it is
Because we
possible.
we we joked about that, like, is 4 too many? Because we did the 3 slasher camps, and we
Hmm.
loosely set up a possible fourth, but we also had other ideas that we wanted to do that are similar. So it's like maybe we don't return to that well. But we've talked about this several times. Like with Cobra, do we come back again after kind of doing a third crossover episode? Are we ever going to see, Stallone as Cobra again? Maybe. Who knows? But we've never come back a fourth time. This is our
Yeah.
first time we've come
Yeah.
back for a fourth.
We did it.
And I got to say, I think it went well. I
I
had
think
some
so.
fun.
Yeah, me too. Like I think we made up for whatever shortcomings that the League of Extraordinary Arnies episode may have had, I think this one
Hmm.
absolutely makes up for it. Like this is so much fun. Like I am excited about it. I wasn't excited about the Arnieverse for a long time. I felt like okay, cool, we had fun with
Same.
it. Like let it go. Now I'm excited about it again. Like now I want to keep going. I want to see like where this all goes. Like what's the big bad? Like what's the like the Avengers
Yep.
Endgame like Thanos threat? Let's figure it out. And like, yeah, I really want to do that now. So I want to see where this is going. But anyway,
Totally agreed.
uh, so let's go ahead and wrap this one up. I had one more kind of section, one more thing I wanted to talk about before we get into, the social medias, the plugs and all that
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
But it's kind of related because it is plugs. So I mentioned before, or you mentioned the last episode of Count Creepyhead Saturday Morning Monster Mash, one of the other podcasts that you're a part of. I mentioned that it was a Halloween special. I don't know that it necessarily was like intended to be one or if you guys talked about it as one, but the episode that you put out October 30th, 2025, essentially your Halloween episode this year, 8 buttholes worth of butt dust. Oh god.
Oh god.
um so I just kind of wanted to like just honestly I was thinking, hey, I'm gonna do a quick little review of all of the Rad Pantheon Halloween special podcast episodes. So we'll start there, and I'll say, like I said before, when you guys were you guys had I don't remember if it was you or who said like the Schwarzenegger like I'm not a tumor about
Another tumor.
Belial from Basket Case, and I was fucking
Yeah.
dying like worse than I am now. Like I was doing the dishes and my hands were all wet and soapy, and I was just like bent over like cackling trying to like compose myself. It was a really funny episode. I will say, like, I think my favorite like Tiny Monster, if I could vote in your round robin, I would have been pushing for It from the Addams Family just because I think he's cool. Maybe not the best horror movie character, but I think he's like a really cool like
Hmm.
little critter of a character. And then I won't get into the details here, but the adult product idea that you guys were discussing, like you had a line of them, right? There was a lot of hilarious jokes that I kept laughing out loud with my AirPods in, and like if anyone had been around, I would have been startling people. But I think it was Josh Hibbard that mentioned the Peter Cushing toy, and I just kept picturing
Oh.
the packaging that just said like more Cushing for the pushing. So I'll just add my little joke to your episode.
I like that. That one's freaking good.
Oh man! And then
Holy crap.
on Halloween this year, we had 3 podcast episodes come out from the Rad Pantheon. So it's come to this, a Simpsons Family podcast. You were a guest on that with Brian and Corey and Patrick and
Yep.
Tara McCoy. Tara was there as well, and you guys covered the Halloween of Horror. Well, that was the title of the episode, Halloween of Horror, or Big Glow Stick is Upset. But obviously one of the Halloween episodes, not a Treehouse of Horror episode of The Simpsons, but a
Hmm.
in continuity Halloween episode. And as usual, I haven't seen it. I haven't watched The Simpsons in a really long time, but I don't care. I just listen to the episodes anyway, and I kind of watch them in quotes, vicariously through just kind of like listening to the description and the discussion, and it's always a lot of fun. So, shout outs to the crew over there at So It's Come to This, a Simpson Family podcast, for another great episode. That one was definitely awesome, and yeah, definitely more like that, please. Um, but
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that one.
and I'll mention the episode that we had here for Razor Rentals. I already mentioned it earlier that we did our Great Pumpkin special, which was a shitload of fun. I won't, review our own episode other than to say that uh, it was our longest episode ever at 3 hours and 13
Hmm.
minutes. It was the longest episode to record because it took us 3 sessions. The first time we ever had to do 3 recording sessions, and we talked a lot during the sessions, but in terms of what we actually hit record on, we recorded almost 4 hours of material that I had to edit.
Yeah.
um, so of course it was also the longest editing effort I think ever in the podcast history. It took
I
goddamn
felt
fucking
so bad for
forever.
that. When I was watching the time tick, like in the last recording, I'm like, oh god, this poor bastard with the record, because I knew that edit was gonna suck, and it's like, but I gotta say, it's still I had a blast making that episode, and I think it came out really good.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It was so much fun. I ended up having to listen to it multiple times because of the editing and then like checking to make sure that it was good. And so, multiple times of listening to a 3+ hour episode. And it took so long that I literally finished editing it on Halloween day when I was trying so hard to get it done, like an out on Halloween, like Halloween morning for like the morning commuters. And I finally had a chance to get it out, but I was literally sitting on my porch giving out Halloween candy, trying to finish it. I was like, God damn it! Like, just let me finish it, please. And then trying to do the Instagram post and all that, and I was like, God, like talk about going up against the wire. But anyway, it was a shitload of fun. I'm glad that we managed to pull off. I think we pulled off what we were afraid to do. To approach the
Yep,
throne of glory with it's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. But the main
totally
reason
agree.
the main reason I wanted to do this little section of reviews is to give you the review that I had for The Boogman's Closet, your primary podcast. You guys did a Halloween special. There was kind of a swerve on your, Halloween Michael Myers series because you did the Mike Myers movie, So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Yep.
And my review of that is you get fuck you stars for not fucking having me on the goddamn episode.
And see, and this is one of those ones that I found out how much you love this movie after the fact and was like, how the fuck did I never know that? Because for the most part, I mean, again, peek behind the curtain, you and I have been friends, like best friends for Jesus Christ, like 25 years.
Yeah,
Like it's been
yep,
a long fucking time.
yep,
Um, so it's pretty easy to say that we know one another's pop culture loves.
yep.
And the fact that I didn't know that, I'm like, how the hell did this never come up in conversation all these
Well,
years?
and to that I would say like I think it has. But the problem is we never really
Yeah, I
talked.
think I just forgot.
Yeah, we never really talked about the movie. It's like, obviously, I'm kidding around. I would have loved to have been on that
Oh yeah,
episode,
no.
and I mentioned it in the Great Pumpkin Razor Rentals episode. It was like when you did, Tales from the Dark Side, and I was like, God damn it, I wanted to be there. But
Right.
uh, I don't know that we've ever really talked about the movie, but like I quote the movie all the time. Like it's
Right.
like in real life, just recently when you told me that you did the episode, you're like, "Hey, man, we did the Soy Mary and Axe Murder episode," and the first thing I said was like, "I bet it was evil, like the fruits of the devil."
Yes.
Come, let us dance like children of the night. But to the point where my wife thinks I have a huge head, and she gets no end of twisted glee out of like making fun of me for it. So she has been quoting this movie for so long that like to the point where like she just says to me like, "He move," like, and will sometimes refer to me directly as Sputnik because I'm spherical but quite pointy at parts.
Oh, you poor bastard. Oh my god. And it's funny too because I knew about the head jokes because like obviously going back to our old superhero characters with Captain Fats and
Yep.
Throbbing Justice and Dome Piece, which was your character.
Yes, who I made sure had the longest superhero name of all time. I forget how many words it was. It was the same amount of words as that one Fiona Apple album that has like the longest album title ever. And I was like, I'm gonna match that with the longest superhero name ever. I don't have it handy right now to read it off, but it would probably bore everyone anyway. But yes, that was Dome Piece. But yeah,
Oh my god.
to the point where like every time my wife and I, get in a little bout of like, friendly teasing with each other, we're picking on each other, and eventually, if she says something really cutting, and I go, oh damn, and then she'll be like, oh, go ahead, go cry yourself to sleep on your huge pillow. Oh, anyway, it was a great episode.
On your huge pillow.
It was a great episode. It was really fun to listen to that. Again, you had
Thank you, thank you.
who is it? Brian and Corey and
Brian and Corey. Reese couldn't make it for that one. Reese was there for all three of the Halloween
that's
episodes where
right.
we did the Blumhouse trilogy, and then unfortunately with scheduling so close to Halloween, he had difficulties making it there on time. So, and it was a night I had to work, so it was like, we have a small window to work with. So
Yeah, that's okay.
He wasn't able to come for that.
But there you go. There's your little backdoor plug for the Halloween Blumhouse trilogy episodes for the Boogeyman's Closet that came out last month. Go check those out. And while you're at it, while you're online, check us out at raisedbyrentals.com, at raisedbyrentals on the socials. Of course, we belong to the Rad Pantheon. I just mentioned some of those podcasters, but it's a whole super team of podcasters, artists, all kinds of creative people supporting each other to help spread the word about rad stuff. So if you like this show, there's a great chance you'll dig one of those other projects at radpantheon.com. Any last thoughts, Mike?
No, nothing really. And like you said, there's definitely a lot coming up with the Rad Pantheon. We will be doing some Thanksgiving horror over on the Boogeyman's Closet. It's going to be a shorter month. Same with Christmas. They're both going to be shorter months. Only because scheduling is such a pain in the ass around the holidays. So instead of trying for 4, we're just like, you know what, let's keep it easy. So there's at least 2 Thanksgiving episodes coming out this month, and I have at least 2 Christmas episodes planned, possibly 3 if I can pull it off. So, but of
Nice.
course, over on Count Creepyhead, once we get our schedule back up and running, I'm sure we will have some more tournament bracket shows, or because a few have been mentioned back and forth, and I would love to get back to some of those.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those are always really fun. Everyone, tune into those other podcasts. Tune once again into the Raise Rentals program. If you had fun with us, visit us on those socials. Drop us a line. Leave a comment. Leave a podcast rating. Let us know what you think we should improve next time. And with that, I'm Josh.
I'm Mike.
And we have to return some Schwarzenegger movies. Raised by Rentals is a member of the Rad Pantheon Network. Visit radpantheon.com to support rad stuff. The theme music is Forbidden Fruit by Velvet Bethany. You can purchase music and learn more at velvetbethany.com.
$15, little man. Put that shit in my hand. Boobies, boobies. Look at my boobies, boobies.